Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel, and this is your tip of the week. I get a lot of viewer questions on I'm having such a hard time stitching a straight seam. So I'm going to give you a few tips. I'm going to go to my sewing machine and show you how I go about stitching a straight seam. It's all about getting familiar with your throat plate, using the proper presser foot, and knowing what all those little buttons mean on the front of your machine. To do a straight stitch, I recommend you use the J foot. On the baby lock machine, there are little lines here that indicate stitch width. If you do not have lines on your machine that are not marked with how wide they are, what you do is take a small ruler and place the end of it in the center. So this is your center line. To do a 1/4 inch, you move it out to where the 1/4 inch mark is, and that's this line here. And then if you want 5/8 of an inch, it's out here. So use the ruler to determine which markings represent the correct seam allowance you want to use. If you do not have any markings on your machine, you can always place tape where you want to do your particular seam width. On your sewing machine, if you have a computerized machine, you will see all of the different stitches. I've selected a straight stitch that starts right in the center. Over here, it tells me which presser foot to use. If you have a mechanical sewing machine, you will have dials where you select the stitch. To change the stitch length, you press either the plus or -1. Minus means going to a shorter length, plus means going to a longer length. On the width, some stitches have a width to it. Again, plus or minus. And then if you want to move the needle to your left or right, you would use this. And then your tension is here. So to do a 5/8 inch wide seam, I'm going to slide my fabric over to the edge right here. I'm going to keep it aligned. Then I'm going to lower my presser foot. Then I have a back stitch button. You can use your back stitch button, or you can also use another button which does 3 or 4 stitches in place to lock the thread. Then step on your foot pedal, keeping the fabric aligned right there on that 5/8 inch line. So as you can see, by placing your fabric on those lines helps to keep a straight stitch. Never look at the needle, only look at the line and the raw edge of your fabric. Here are some also different types of stitching that you can do that also are basically sewn on a straight line. Now these two are obvious, they're straight stitches, but you have other decorative stitches that also need to be sewn on a straight line. So I'm going to show you how I go about doing something like this on a little pot holder, sort of an introduction to how to go about doing some of this decorative stitching. When you do quilting stitches, they're done not only on a quilt, but you can also do them on a pot holder, which is I'm going to show you, but a table runner, placemats. There's a lot of different projects to use this stitch on. So no matter which one of those you want to do, all of your fabrics are layered the same. So if you were doing a pot holder, I have a piece of fabric that's on the back, and on a pot holder I usually put 2 pieces of cotton batting. Some people like to use 1 layer of cotton batting and another layer of Insulbrite. Then you have your fabric on top. On a small piece like this, like a pot holder, you only need to put a few pins to hold all those layers together. The other thing you want to use is a walking presser foot. And I'm going to refer you to another video I have that'll show you what all of that is. So basically what you do is you have your walking presser foot on. You select whatever stitch you want to do, whether it's the straight stitch or a decorative stitch. I'm going to do it on a diagonal. So I'm going to put this corner under my presser foot. I'm going to have this corner pointing directly at me, myself. So you're sitting in front of your machine with this corner pointed directly at you center. You never look at the needle. You're going to look back and forth between this point and the presser foot. You're going to look back and forth. You're making sure that this point is centered to that presser foot, and you're just going to go along. Then to do another row of stitching, go over a couple of inches on a pot holder and do the same thing. Put that presser foot down here, look at this edge, look back and forth, never look at the needle. Then you go over to this side and do the same thing. Then if you wanted your stitches crosswise, you just do a quarter of a turn and repeat that entire process. If you're a beginner and you would like to learn how to make clothing, one of the things you need to remember is start with a very small project that's made out of clothing fabric, and that is a neck scarf. So this is kind of like a chiffon, has a different feel, but it's sheer, you can see through it. And this neck scarf is just a long tube. So you cut a wide piece of fabric, you fold it in half, it's got a long seam along one edge, and then if you want, you could put beaded trim at each end of it, and you'd have a very decorative scarf. Let me show you one more. This scarf here was cut exactly the same way. It's just that it was stitched together just slightly differently. So it's a long tube of fabric, but you twist the fabric before you stitch the ends together. So it's permanently twisted. So when you hang it around your neck, it looks really nice. So this one and the other scarf, very easy beginner projects. One of the things I want to mention is that the fabric, when you're working with your chiffons or real thin sheer fabric, it can be a little challenging to cut it out. Now here is a chiffon fabric. Now your chiffon fabrics are very wide, and so if you're trying to cut a straight line, it's a little difficult. So right now I've got it folded with the selvage edges together. They're finished edges, in case you don't know what that is. So it's folded in half. Here's the folded edge. Because it's so long, I'm going to fold it one more time. So when you are smoothing it out, you need to carefully bring it together, just very carefully. Don't stretch it, just sort of pat it to try to get it to lay flat, and don't stretch it. I'm using a wide ruler, and I like this wide ruler for cutting this scarf fabric out because it helps to stabilize the fabric. I've also put a couple of heavy weights on it because one of the problems with cutting a long strip of fabric is the ruler has a tendency to move a little bit. So I've just put these little weights. I bought these at Home Depot. You can probably get them at other hardware stores. They're in the nuts and bolts section, and they're very heavy. So to help me, because I have a problem with my right hand, I've put this on there. Then I'm going to use a rotary cutter to cut this edge. Now, if you don't have a rotary cutter, then mark it with a fabric marking pin and draw a line along here. Then place pins along that edge and use some nice sharp scissors to cut it out. And try not to move the fabric around because otherwise it's not going to be very straight. So I'm just going to take this rotary cutter. I want to cut this edge straight. So I'm going to cut it and just go slow. And then I'm just going to pull this away. Then I'm going to take the weights off and very carefully lift the ruler up. Whatever you do, don't move this fabric. And then you would move it over to wherever you needed it and place it on one of the lines on your cutting mat, and the fabric just moved a little bit already. That's why you have to be really careful. Then put your weights back on top and then cut your strip out. Now, even after you've cut the strip and you've been super, super careful, you still might have a little bit of a wavy edge. So when you're cutting fabric like this out, if you don't have the cutter, pin it. Lots of pins, use scissors, and go slow. Now, if you're a beginner and you want to try making one of these scarves, I'm going to have links below your YouTube screen that all you need to do is just scroll down. When you see the word more, click on that word, and that section will expand open. And these 2 scarves are all in one tutorial. A lot of you have been asking me, more scrap busters, please. So here's a couple of them for you. This is some fabric that you put around a coffee cup, so it keeps the cup warm. It just takes a small piece of fabric. I have a little bit of Velcro on there, and it slides right over your styrofoam cup. And what are these? These are little gift card holders. If you've got a lot of fat quarters, pull some of those out. You can probably get 3 or 4 of these out of that fat quarter and 3 or 4 of these for the coffee cup warmer. So check below your YouTube screen for the links to all of these items that I talked about. Now remember, scroll down. When you see the word more, you click on it. That section expands open. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and make sure you check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.